Jamie from Inky&Scrappy, sharing with you today my Craft Roulette challenge number 210, Craft Roulette Coffee Shop to Diorama. So to start, I'll just be pulling in a few things. So I brought out my coffee shop paper pack from Echo Park for that chalkboard print there. I'm bringing in my favorite things, Sweet Summer Combo Blends. Oh, it's a gorgeous paper pack, by the way. And then I did pull out a couple of coffee-related things. I also brought in lawn fawns to Diorama, and then I'm bringing in a Spellbinders oval stack. I mean, you know, it's probably as old as my youngest child, but it works, right? And then, of course, some paper for stamping on, and we'll move all the pieces out of the way, and we'll get back to them later. So to start, I'm bringing in that Frappy Camper Perking spot stamp set from Trinity Stamps because Carrie Rose was in this episode, and she turned me on to Trinity Stamps and this particular stamp set. It is probably, I don't pull it out enough. It's one of my favorites. I don't pull it out enough because it's so teeny tiny. Not gonna lie, those images are small. It's fun though. Lots of scene building. So as I was pulling stuff in from this one, you know, there's a girl and a guy and a coffee barista and a menu and a chalkboard pop-up for outside said coffee shop or Perking, the Frappy camper. I didn't end up using the Frappy camper in this one. It was the whole back pane of what would have been the Ta-Da diorama, and it might have fit, but I wasn't positive it was going to, and I wanted this card to go smoothly. Yeah. So I did stamp that on Xpress cardstock with some Lawn Fawn jet black ink for ink blending. I also brought in some close to my heart ink colors for that little teeny tiny, I guess, goodie stand. And so I brought in some purples, some bluish purples, and then some tealy green, greenish blue. Or maybe I just did blue. I ended up doing blue. Sorry. So kind of a nod towards those beautiful colors of the Northern Lights. So for my actual coloring today, I'm showing you which ones I'm kind of using. I pulled out my already done stack of color blends for my Ohuhu and Ohuhu and Honolulu markers, and I just kind of pulled colors that I knew were going to work with what I needed. I needed some hair colors. I didn't pull my skin color tones out. I probably should have, but all of those color combos can be found on my blog. On the side tab, there's a Ohuhu color blend page. So they're all fairly easy to find there if you're interested in those. So I'm just coming in doing some very simple coloring with these. I kind of tried to do mostly 2 color blends. Sometimes I did bring in a 3rd color, but truthfully the images are so small you really don't need to bring in a 3rd color for the vast majority of them. I went with some neutral grays for my gray and or black tones, and then of course, pinks for the dress. I tried to do like a color variation on that one. I probably should have pulled in a little bit darker purple than the lightest purple to get what I was going for there, but it worked nonetheless. And then for that t-shirt on that guy, I was going to do purple, and then as I was starting, I was like, ooh, this one would kind of be fun as a tie-dyed looking shirt. So of course, I pulled in that tealy green. For the pants, I did do the lightest blue in my green blend, but I wanted it to look more like blue jeans, so I did come in with my lighter gray marker first, and then of course went over that one again with the bluer tone of my greenish blue combo. I'm coloring hair with both the lighter and the darker of the brown there, trying to start with my dark and then coming in with the light and just kind of blending that in a little bit to give it a little bit of a highlight. And then, of course, doing, you know, either wood grain on the menu or making my Frappuccino. I'm guessing that's what the lady is going to be drinking, is something sweet and frappy. So just kind of switching colors up, trying to get my colors that are in my background panel there onto my images so that they coordinate well with the whole card. Skin tones. I just kind of pulled and grabbed, and I really didn't think much about skin tones. I know my old Ohuhu markers fairly well skin tone wise, so I just did a variety of different shades and or skin tones. I wasn't really going for a certain look per se, just something that had a little bit of variety. There are the main colors that I use. I don't guess I put the skin tone ones back in my thing. They were the old Ohuhu ones. Anyways, the old number system. If you caught them, you caught them. So now we're going to set all of those images aside after I die cut them out with the coordinating dies. Now for this one, I was planning on bringing in a larger coffee sentiment from the other stamp set, and I just decided I wanted to keep it fairly simple on the front. I didn't want to have to add a banner or that type of thing to make it work and or fit. And so I just brought in one of those small stamps from the actual Frappy Camper stamp set. And then I'm going to use my VersaFine Onyx, no, my Versamark ink here and stamp that a couple of times just to make sure it's got a good coverage. Of course, I didn't heat set it. Well, I did, but I conditioned it first with some anti-static powder, trying to get the white embossing powder not to stick to the black cardstock where I didn't want it to. I will heat set that with some Brutus Monroe Alabaster White embossing powder. So once I have that heat set, I will clean that up quick here, and then I'm going to just buff off that white powder. I guess I could have left it, being that chalkboard was the theme, but you know, it is what it is. So to start this one, I'm going to start by building my ta-da diorama. So I have all of my pieces cut out. I'm just using some close to my heart cardstock for all of the black here, lining that first side up flush with the edge of that background piece, and then closing that one up, and then doing the same for the other. The other one, if you line it up in the middle with the other one, it should be a perfect match on the other side. And then for my front panel here, I just cut down a piece of paper to 4.5 by, I think it's like 3 and, it's 4.5 by, I don't know, 3 and, I don't know, I measure it every time. So I just kind of take my one piece, the pull tab piece, and then I just kind of line it up and cut it that way. I have it marked on my one cutting platform. But basically you cut that full piece and then you just cut it in half, and that'll give you each of the sides to your flaps there if you want that continuous pattern across the whole front. So for my little pieces here, I'm just coming in and lining them up with the little, you don't have to line them up perfectly here, but if you line them up perfectly, it doesn't get, otherwise you'll get like a bow, or it will open further than it needs to, and then you get kind of an angle. So if you want your little ta-da to be straight back and not angled or bowed at all, lining it up with the little notches, I guess, is the way to do it. I don't usually do it. Just, yeah. So right now I'm making some little M's and or W's. For later, I will be adding the front of my ta-da diorama onto the back of my ta-da diorama. And this is what I do to make it stay in place so that front panel doesn't slide around. So I'm coming in with my little ta-da brackets, I guess, the flooring pieces. So before I get too far into that part, I'm like, you know, I probably should have built the whole back before I inserted it into the ta-da diorama. I didn't. Hot take. Yeah. I also decided that Curie needed a straw for her Frappuccino. Yes, this is the point where I realized, you know, This is like the perfect card for Craft Roulette Coffee Shop. We have Mr. Producer and Carrie Rhodes here. And of course, on the barista will be Cool Mary. Barista Mary? Says it. Yeah, Barista Mary in the background dishing up the delicious beverages. So I'm bringing in that little simple coffee shop stamp set. I guess it's not simple. The tiny coffee shop stamp set from my favorite things to put on the wall there for my coffee shop. And then I'm going to add in my holographic. We're pretending that it's not holographic, that it's really like a stainless steel countertop, okay? Yeah, but the holographic just really went with that color scheme of Northern Lights. So it was my extra nod to the Northern Lights because, it's shiny, sparkly, pretty. And this was the point where I realized I couldn't fit both Carrie Rhodes and Mr. Producer into the Ta-Da diorama at the same time. There's only enough room in the coffee shop for one of them. The other one's going to have to be on the outside. So I am starting with building that background first. So once I had Carrie kind of in her position in the foreground here, I'm going to start working on my background. I did add some of the pieces onto all the way into the back onto the background piece to kind of give some more depth and dimension. So Cool Mary's kind of hanging out, leaning on the counter, chatting with Miss Carrie Rhodes as they, discuss menu options, obviously. And then I will add in those little treats and goodies, kind of just filling in the scene. You aren't going to see all of them from the front of the card. When you angle it, you'll see, all of the extra things in the background. So this is where I already had the glue on it, and I was like, oh wait, I need to add some things to my menu. So, of course, I came in with my little micron pen here and added a 1, 2, 3, 4, for the 4 parameters that are Craft Roulette. And then, of course, I put that close to Mary here, struggling immensely with my fat fingers and my little working space. Yeah, it happens. So once I was content with that, I found another goodie tray that needed to be added into that background there. So I'm just kind of adding that, tucking that in again behind all the way into the back. And then I will add on my front panel here. And so sliding in both sides into the little brackets. I will say that the Close to My Heart cardstock probably isn't the heaviest cardstock to use for the front pane here. I would much prefer a little bit heavier cardstock there, but it worked. Next time I guess I could double it, but it is what it is. So then I will add Mr. Producer onto the front of the card because he's kind of the behind the scene guy anyways, so I felt he needed to be all the way up front, running the show. There we go. So I'm going to add in my little bracket pieces now. So I just add a little bit of glue onto both sides. You want to attach it to that little black strip that holds the front on to the back. This way it doesn't hinder and or cause any problems with the movement of that Ta-Da feature. So here it is, my Ta-Da diorama, which hits all of the parameters. So of course the Ta-Da diorama includes an action, so you have to pull open the coffee shop doors here. Of course, I play with it immensely, So there is my movement. I have the oval cut out in my Ta-Da diorama window. Of course, there is the Blackboard both on the front and those little pull tab windows. And of course, my Northern Lights is that pop of purpley blue and teals in the background. And of course, the holographic countertop with Cool Mary. Yeah. So there is my Craft Roulette creation for this week. Well, it was a great show to watch. I caught the replay, so, go check out Craft Roulette. It's always a good time. I hope you have an amazing week. Please keep getting inky. Bye!